Welcome along to the two-man wall. Johnny Ward and Adam Russell. We're both a little bit angry this morning. We're angry the way that football has gone, and Star Sports viewers today. Why are we angry? We're angry because managers don't get a chance anymore. Frank Lampard sacked by Chelsea, despite the fact that he's brought so many young players in. They've had a wobble in form. Is it any more than that? And Adam Russell, you're 24 years of age, and you're already telling me that you're fed up of managers being given the heave-ho after a wobble in form, and as much as we expect this from Chelsea, the new man in can probably expect something similar when he has a bad run in a year and a half's time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see Thomas Tuchel still being in charge of Chelsea at the end of next season. He may well come in and win a trophy with them this season, but we've seen in the past that isn't enough to save you from Abramovich's axe. In fact, only three managers, Jose twice, Conte and Carlo Ancelotti, have managed 100+ games as Chelsea manager during the Abramovich era. Of course, they've won a lot of trophies, and there's something to be said for that. But at some point, Chelsea are going to have to decide what kind of club are they going to be. They have, in my opinion, they have the infrastructure that Manchester United had 20 years ago, where they're obviously capable of paying big money to bring in big signings, but they've also got a really, really strong academy system, and they've got hundreds of players that they can bring in from their academy system. But instead, they stick with this short-term mentality of, if we're not going to finish top four this season, that's it. And we've seen in the past that, and to be honest, the way this season's going, we've talked about it on the show in the past, that it's so close that 3 wins on the spin for Chelsea, and a few results go their way elsewhere, and they're back in the top four. I just thought, after last season, Roman might have appreciated that sometimes you do need a bit of patience with these managers, that it's not always a quick fix. And
it's ironic you call him Roman there, because I doubt anyone is on first name terms with this man, or certainly very, very few.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Even Lampard called him Mr. Abramovich in his statement.
Whatever he's calling him now.
I don't think he's calling him at all now, if I'm being honest. But
well, come here, I was looking at the table though today, just because Star Sports are now 2-1 that Chelsea finish in the top 4, which is a bet that's worth looking at, because Liverpool's situation at the moment, Liverpool are obviously playing Spurs, and that's a game that we're going to talk about as well. But Liverpool are on 34 points from 19. Chelsea are on 29 points from 19, so they're 5 behind Liverpool. And there's probably an expectancy that they will improve. What annoys me about this is, right, Lampard didn't have the CV to get this job, in my view, because he wasn't that long in the game. He did okay at Derby, that's fine. He had his Chelsea link, questionable relevance to me. But you bring in a guy who's obviously stymied by the fact that he can't make transfers in the interim, does a great job bringing in young players, exceeds expectations, and then this unproven manager, after a wobble in form of a month, maybe 6 weeks, you sack him. It's absolute nonsense, and Abramovich doesn't understand the game at all, if you ask me.
No, and to be honest, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's a shame for Lampard. I feel sorry for him, because this is his club. It's the team that, when he got into management, that you think this is who he wanted to go on and manage. It's the same with Gerrard, and Liverpool had the opportunity to bring Gerrard in already, and they said, no, we're not ready for that yet. Let him go away and get some experience.
Should he have stayed further at Derby?
Yes.
He had a 3-year contract at Derby. He's building something there.
Yeah, or he takes a move to Celtic, or he goes somewhere like sort of lower mid Premier League, Southampton or someone like that. But you get one job, I think, one chance at these big jobs, the top 6 jobs. And I don't think any of the other top 6 clubs are going to touch Lampard now. He's obviously had the experience of Chelsea. He's a Chelsea man. Maybe they wouldn't have done anyway. But for me, obviously, it's easy to say in hindsight, but they shouldn't have chosen Lampard. Lampard should have been the manager they were bringing in this time, after they've let go whoever they'd brought in previous. I think you get one shot, and I think managers sometimes now are just a bit too quick to say, I want the big job, I'll take the big job, because you have one bad run of form over for you, and all of a sudden you're out managing in Europe or whatever. You see the likes of I was talking about Andre Villas-Boas. Obviously, you got the Spurs job after leaving Chelsea. But those 2 jobs and his lack of success there have tainted him almost to the big clubs across Europe. He's now been across managing China and at Zenit in Russia. And it's almost, why would you want to take the big jobs? Because it does nothing to your stock as a manager except bring it down. Even Jurgen Klopp at the minute, like, he's getting an absolute hounding from the press and from the fans, even though what he's done over Liverpool in the last four seasons has been nothing short of extraordinary.
Is he getting a hounding?
I think, well, he's obviously divided on Klopp. I think it's more that I don't think he's under pressure to be sacked. I think they need to show that they're capable of at least challenging for the league this year, because they're just going backwards at the minute. But
the Spurs game is going to be massive, right? If we get to this actually now, because this is a defining game in Liverpool's season in some respects. I don't like to build up games too much. I mean, we could have spoken about the Crystal Palace game, and after that, they win that game 7-0, and you're like, I remember thinking that day, Liverpool are a bit short in the betting to win this game, and I'm just calling this team wrong. They hit 7 shots on target in their next 3 games against sort of relatively lowly opposition. So I don't want to build up one game, because the Palace game, they look like the best team in the world. But if Liverpool, and they're playing well, they have a really tough run of games coming up, Liverpool, actually, which also will include Man City. But if they lose to Spurs, if they get a draw, fair enough. But if they lose to Spurs, they're 1-4 to finish in the top 4. You're getting into interesting territory here. Spurs are a point behind them with a game in hand. They probably won't entirely rule themselves out of the title race just yet. It's now dependent on Man City wobbling. But Klopp is under scrutiny, I think, because he deliberately chose not to sign players, and that has bit them in the ass in terms of their defence, basically.
Yeah, I think when they let Lovren go in the summer, it was a risk before they'd had all these injuries to have only 3 senior centre-backs. At any point, that's too light, especially for a top club who are expecting to compete on 4 fronts every season. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. They've only got themselves to blame. They didn't invest in their squad quite as maybe as they should have done this summer. They obviously brought in Thiago and Jota, who have had their problems with injuries respectively and COVID and stuff like that. But they need a spark at the minute, Liverpool. They just need, like you say, they played so well in that Palace game. And then we obviously spoke after that, and we thought there's no way that this team doesn't go on to win the title. So it's been quite strange to see how they've fallen off over the last few years. They've obviously not won since that Palace game. They've not scored since the West Brom game at the end of December. And that's the one thing with this Liverpool side that you never thought would be an issue, is goals. Like with that front 3, there's no excuse for not scoring enough goals. I think it's getting to the point now with, people have got to start asking, yes, he brings a lot to the team in terms of pressing. And yes, a lot of that system is built around the way he presses and the way he drops into the false 9 position. But if you're going to be a number 9 in the Premier League, if you're not managing 10 goals a season, then you're not worth anything, in my opinion.
Yeah. They're 11-10 to beat Spurs on Thursday evening at 8:00, and obviously that does look a very risky bet. But there were patches in the Manchester United game, to be fair, when Liverpool were very good, and they gave away sloppy goals, but they did show. Salah got 2 goals. Firmino had patches in the game, and there were positive signs. I'm not sure what to expect of Spurs, to be honest. What do you make of it?
Spurs again been a bit hit hot and cold at times. I think the emergence of people like Ndombele for Spurs, if he can keep his form. I thought I obviously watched him. It was only Wickham in the FA Cup, but he was absolutely sensational when he came on. He just looked a cut above everyone else, not just in a Wickham shirt, but in a Tottenham shirt as well. His first touch was superb. The way he moved with the ball, his movement off the ball. So I think if they can get him, Kane and Son firing regularly, performing at their best, I think they'll be there and thereabouts. I think they've got a strong enough squad. And obviously with Jose, they're going to have a manager that expects them to be in winning positions. With Liverpool, I think the really interesting game for me, the Tottenham-Liverpool game, I think it's a big 6 clash, and they're quite hard to call sometimes. They can be a bit cagey, or sometimes it can be the complete opposite. I think the really interesting game for me is going to be Sunday against West Ham. Now, West Ham are one of the informed teams in the Premier League at the minute. They've won every Premier League match since the turn of the year. They won last night at Crystal Palace, and they're now up into 4th. I think they've gone under the radar.
They have. I actually couldn't believe this morning they were 4th.
What a job David Moyes has done there. I think doesn't seem to be getting any credit for it, but they've not spent a great amount of money. Even down to the fact they've actually only got 1 striker now. They sold Sebastian Haller to Ajax earlier in the window, and they've just basically been left with Mikel Antonio, who, don't get me wrong, is doing a really great job for them. But if he gets injured, I do worry about that to a certain extent. But I think what a job he's done. I was watching them last night. What a player Thomas Souček is. He's the man. He's one of the signings of the summer for me. He's still just 25 years old. He is box to box. He looks like he's been playing in the Premier League for years. He looks composed, comfortable. He chips in with goals. He's physical. For me, he's one that you kind of spotted. You think he could play at a lot higher level. He could play Champions League. He could be in a title challenging side. I think he's got everything. I think he's a real big threat for West Ham. I think that game is just, if Liverpool were to go to West Ham on Sunday and fail to get a result, then you're looking at it and saying, are they even good enough to make the top four? You said they were 1-4 to finish in the top four, so there's not a lot of value. But if you wanted to lay that, man, I think the form that they're in, unless they can get these players back from injury soon, or they do manage to bring somebody in before the end of the window, then I can't see them even in the title race at the minute, which is bizarre to say, considering just a month ago we were saying they were out for doing. So,
well, they're out to 8-1, and you can even get now 2-1 as part of that they finish in the first two, which is, it's just where it's gotten. And Man City's next game at home to Sheffield United, and in fairness to Liverpool as well, they have their Champions League worries down the line. They're going to focus on that. Obviously, they're out of the FA Cup, but if they do struggle against Spurs and West Ham, I would be concerned, because they have a very tough run of games coming up. Another game I want to talk about as well. And it's just been one of them seasons. It is fascinating. It's disappointing me that there isn't a crowd at games, because I think there's so much going on. Arsenal, Manchester United, these are two managers whose currency has gone way up in the last month or so. To be fair to Arteta, was under a lot of pressure. Yeah. Again, probably unfairly. He's quite young in the job. Solskjaer is an interesting one, because they've never been that bad under him. They've never really been that great, but they have seemingly found a way to win at the moment. Arsenal 15-8. 12-5 the draw. Manchester United 7-5.
This brings us right back to our point about Lampard, though, that Arteta was under a huge amount of pressure just 6-8 weeks ago. Solskjaer at the beginning of the season, when they struggled to get going, he was under a huge amount of pressure. And you give it a few weeks, you get a good run of results that go your way. A few of the other teams around you lose, and all of a sudden you're talking about them being title contenders for United, not Arsenal. Don't get me wrong, but the same for Arteta. He's under huge pressure. They go on a good run of results, and all of a sudden he can do no wrong as far as Arsenal fans are concerned. I just think this short-termism that we've now got in the Premier League, we forget almost instantly the things that have happened before, and I think also we forget that the season lasts 38 games, Johnny. We're only halfway through. If we pull these managers halfway through and we don't give them the chance to have the full season, who knows what Lampard would have done in the second half of the season.
Not only that, I mean, with the whole COVID situation and the pressure this has put on players to keep up with a schedule that probably isn't really befitting actually a professional athlete you can rotate your squad and so forth. Liverpool have been decimated by injuries this season. I actually think Trent Alexander-Arnold, as much as you were sort of tipping him up 11-1 to score against Spurs, I think his season has probably been the product of the fact that he's played too much. I think statistically it's proven basically sacking managers is a waste of money and time. So my attitude is, if you're the chairman and you gave this manager 3 years, on your head be it, give him the 3 years, because otherwise you got it wrong, not the manager.
Exactly right. And the new manager comes in and he doesn't want some of the players, and you spend 6 months, a year trying to rebuild the squad so that he's got the players that he wants, and you've spent another 100 million or whatever, and then he goes on a bad run, the players maybe don't settle in as fast, and all of a sudden he's gone, and we're repeating this whole process. Chelsea have done that for years, and it's, to be fair to them, it's worked out for them. They've won a lot of trophies down those years, but at some point that luck will run out.
What do you think of this game as well, just in terms of the betting, without interrupting you there? Arsenal 15-8, Man United 7-5. I find this very tough to call.
I do, yeah. It's an interesting one because they're both on their best runs this season. Arsenal and United are both unbeaten in the last 5 Premier League games. United's last Premier League defeat actually came against Arsenal back at the start of November. Arsenal haven't lost themselves since they went to Everton and lost in December. Yeah, it's an interesting one to call. I'd be expecting Arsenal to sit back and absorb the pressure like they did at Old Trafford in November. They came away there with a 1-0 win. And I kind of see the game going down a similar route. They'll look to absorb the pressure for the first 60 minutes and maybe try and grab one. A repeat scoreline, Arsenal 1-0, and that's 9-1 at the minute. I think it's going to be that kind of game. So I think Alexandre Lacazette scored again last night. He's having his best season in the Premier League. He started the game at Old Trafford, so you'd think he'd probably start the game at the Emirates on Saturday. So him to get the goal, he's 9-2 to score first, 6-4 any time. So if you're looking at Arsenal 1-0, Lacazette score any time, that's 24-1, which is obviously big value if you fancy it being a tight game. So I think that's probably the way I'd be leaning. Definitely Arsenal 1-0 at 9-1. I think, Lacazette's got a chance of getting on the score sheet too.
A fascinating game on Sunday as well as Leicester at home to Leeds. Leicester very much still in the title race. Thought they were very good against Chelsea last week, and Leeds desperately badly needed a win against Newcastle, 17-20. Leicester, who just keep performing. They're such an admirable team. It's time for us to mention the tipping challenge, though, young man.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a great number of entrants. So we didn't do one last week because it was the FA Cup, but the previous week we had a real number of entrants. We obviously had a few people that beat our traders in the office. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to our winner who walked away with a £200 free bet, no less, Johnny. And we'll be repeating that with 9 Premier League games again this week. We're ditching the early kickoff because, as all football punters know, is the early kickoff is cursed. So it'll be the other 9 Premier League games. All you've got to do is tell us what you think the scoreline will be. And as we say, if you can beat our traders tips, you'll snag yourself a nice £10 free bet, and the best selection will win a £200 free bet as well.
Check out the website, check out Star Sports on Twitter. That's it for the week, Adam. I must say that setup you got there is mightily impressive. You have an air of gravitas that I just can't match today.
Yeah, I won't take too much credit. It is my mum and dad's bedroom / office, so I'll be back to usual terrible audio next week, I'm sure.
What a world we live in. Thank you, Adam, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, mate.